back, and now we're going to do part 2 of the lab, which is measuring the resistance, the voltage, and the current of a circuit. So we need to define what do we mean by that. So resistance is going to be given by a cursive R. So that's my cursive R. And the reason why I use cursives is because in physics we use about every single letter in the English alphabet, both uppercase and lowercase. And then we have to use Greek letters, and then sometimes we have to use cursive letters. So I like to use cursive letters for all electrical things. So if you recall, when we did the lab on electricity, I used a cursive Q for electrical charge, and then I also used a cursive E for the electric field. So I'm just using cursive letters to represent anything that is electrical. Now we don't care about the electric field or the electric charge. Now it does turn out though that the electric field is going to be related to one of these other concepts. So let's get to that in just a moment here. So we've got that, the first one is voltage. So this is going to be a cursive V. So cursive V, and then it's going to have the units of volts. And then we abbreviate that with the letter V. So you could write out the word volts for voltage if you wanted to, but it's probably better just to abbreviate it with the V. So cursive V is the quantity voltage, and then this V is the official metric unit of voltage, the volt. And so it's going to be the pusher of the electrical charges in the wire. And so this is actually related to the electric field up here. So another way of saying it is there's an electric field in the wire that is pushing the electrons. But it's more common just to use the word voltage in describing what it's doing. So that's the voltage. Then you've got the actual flow of the electrical charges, which is going to be called electric current. And so that's my symbol, that's my cursive capital I for electric current. Now in some textbooks they're going to use one of these things, and then in other textbooks they're going to use an I for that, but I'm just going to use a cursive capital I for it. And then the official metric unit for electric current is going to be the ampere, but you might just remember it as an amp, and then sometimes it's just the letter A. So all of these are the same thing, the ampere, the amp, and then the symbolized just with the letter A. So all of this represents electric current. That's going to be the flow of the electrical charges, just like the flow of water would be a water current. And then you've also got resistance. So resistance is going to be slowing down the flow of the electrical charges. And then this one has a really weird unit. So this is going to be called the ohm. So let's all say that together. Ohm. All right. So it's going to be ohm, and then it has a Greek letter omega. So one of these things is going to represent resistance in the wire. And so we're going to go and adjust some of the parameters on our simulation. So if we go back to the simulation here, okay, now I've already done it for you, but if you click on the battery, I want you to adjust the voltage so that it's 15 volts. So 15 volts is going to be our voltage. And then for the resistance, so click on the resistance thing, and then you're going to adjust that until it's a 12. So you want 12 ohms for your resistor, and then you want 15 volts for the voltage. Now, we're going to measure it using a device. So we need to measure the voltage, and then we need to measure the electrical current. So let's start with the voltage, and so we're going to grab a voltmeter. So a voltmeter measures voltage. And to measure voltage, it's really simple. All you got to do is take the two probes and you put one over here, and then you put one over here, and then you just read what it says. And you see that it says 15 volts. And that was the voltage on the battery. And then I also want you to take the two probes and I want you to measure the voltage. Now I'm not going to do it for you, but I want you to measure the voltage on the resistor. So take the two probes, put one on one side, and then put the other one on the other side and see what the voltage is. And then you're going to record that in the lab. So notice you do not open the circuit when you measure a voltage. Now, how do I open the circuit? So if I click on there, do you see I get some scissors? And then if I click on the scissors, I can open up the circuit. So I could put the voltmeter in there. Now you don't want to do this, but we could put the voltmeter in there like this, and then it tends to damage the voltmeter if you do that. So you'd never want to open the circuit whenever you are measuring a voltage. So always keep it closed, and then all you got to do is take the two probes and put them across whatever you want. Alright, then you've got the current. Now the current is measured in amps, so therefore we're going to use an ammeter. So an ammeter, one of these things, is going to measure electrical current. Now we could take the voltmeter, so now that we've used it, we can put it back, and now we want to put the current meter in there. And so it says to get some wires out, and then see what would happen if you took your current meter and you tried to use it like a voltmeter. Okay, so that would mean to do what? It means to take, here's our two probes, and we could take the two probes and we could put them over there. Okay, so I want to make sure that was connected. And then I'm going to take this one and put it over here, and uh-oh, it caught fire. So this would be sending too much electricity through the ammeter and it would blow it up. So you never want to measure a current this way. So now we need to put the fire out. So this is the beauty of doing the simulation, because I've done it in lab, and inevitably there's a student that wants to know, why is my ammeter not working? And that's because they've basically blown it up, and then I have to put a new fuse in it. So it's very annoying. So in order to measure current, we do open the circuit. So I'm going to get out my scissors, and I'm going to open up the circuit here, and then you can make this look a lot nicer if you want to, but okay, and now you can measure the current. So you see here's the current down here, and I want you to take that number and you're going to put that into the lab. Okay, so here's the lab, and you should now be able to answer all of these questions here. And then it talks about the proper way of using a voltmeter. And then it talks about the proper way of using the ammeter, which measures the current. So read about all of that. And then it says, what is the current? Okay, so you're going to write that number right here. So what is the electrical current? And don't forget the units. So don't just say 7. You would need to say 7A for amps. So always put the units on there. So that was part 2. And now we're ready for the final part of today's lab, which is going to be on how to calculate these quantities. And we'll do that in just a moment.